Philip Kennedy Johnson concludes his epic Superman story as the many generations of the House of El all come together to battle the Red King, who will stop at nothing to conquer all the known universe. Philip Kennedy Johnson again solidifies to me that he is the perfect person to be handed the reins of Superman in Infinite Frontier, using this wonderful multi-generational epic to reaffirm that even against all odds, there is still hope and it will win the day. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to explore this little piece of the far future and how the Superman family has become a noble dynasty of sorts, made up of a mixture of different people, all who carry the House of El symbol with them, like Tanamarians and Coluans and even Warworld, linking up the recent Worlds of War book in a neat little bit of continuity. I also like the idea as well that the original Superman is but a myth now, with even some of his own family not fully believing he existed and thinking he's just part of a bigger story. It's a fun little piece of information that's explored just enough though in Thrandir's story throughout this issue that makes me want to see a little bit more of it in the future somewhere. Scott Godlewski joins the book as artist, and boy does he do some fantastic looking action set pieces. As with all of the Future State books so far, we've got some positively awesome character redesigns and new characters introduced, all who had unique costumes that echoed their own lineage within the House of El family. Superman's redesign was great as well, since it's the exact same costume he has in the Immortal Wonder Woman book, linking that up with a really nice bit of continuity, as well as setting up a somewhat timeline between those books, with this happening before that story. Future State Superman House of El issue 1 was a fantastic action-packed story that explored a future House of El and what hope means to these newer members of the Superman family. I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with all of these characters and getting to know them, and would love to see them all again somewhere down the line. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Future State Superman House of El issue 1 finds the House of Superman battling the parademons of Apocalypse in the Fortress of Sanctuary on the Moon. Inside the fortress, Brainiac 4 works away on his computers as the El family rush inside with the wounded, calling for his Medroids. Brainiac tells Kal-El to go to the northern perimeter and bolster the defenses with the weapons he has, as he tells Superman that they need to evacuate. Brandon Kent finds his daughter Theander, hoping that she isn't hurt, but the warrior shrugs him off, telling her father to look after himself. Khan apologizes for her attitude, since fighting a war with one's daughter at their side is tricky. Brandon knows that he doesn't need to protect her, but he still worries, being he's her father. He asks the warrior about his own wife and fighting with her, and Khan knows it's as he thinks, he's just smart enough not to talk about it to her. Superman meanwhile calls for a status report from Kal-El and Allura, asking about the war zones, learning that the fighters are exhausted but they won't ever admit it, and they'll continue to fight long until they are dust. Theander says that there are 62 Tanamarian warriors left and more could be called in if need be. Brainiac 4 says the AI and robots are only operating at half capacity, but the med droids and repair droids are mostly functional. The Red King has begun targeting them. He knows Superman is using robots to spare organic lives, but they won't last much longer. Superman knows that they have faced worse odds, but the arriving Blue Lantern Superwoman Rowan knows that's not possible. Superman reunites with his sister, learning that Coalition of Lanterns failed and they have never faced an army like the one coming for them. Rowan says that the Red King now commands Apocalypse, New Genesis, and has an armada made up of every ship from every world he has conquered so far, and to top it all off, he's leading the charge himself. Superman asks if she's found any surviving forces from the United Planets, but all the Blue Lantern found was death, telling her brother that they are alone. Superman won't accept no one is out there, since Brainiac 4 has been scanning for survivors, but the Coluan however reveals he hasn't, since he sent an aid request weeks ago and it went unanswered, so he devoted his resources back to the defense of the fortress. They wonder if that since he's not scanning, then what are the star maps for? The being says that it's a long shot, but they could use some hope, and he thinks there is some out there. The next wave of enemies approaches and alarms ring out as the parademons and monsters of the Red King besiege the House of El again, aiming to tear them down, so the Valkyries of the House of El fight back, leading the charge against the beasts. The parademons unleash the Promethean as Karn-El knows the Red King sends organics to do his dirty work since it will force them to kill them, knowing the villain is taunting them now. Superman reminds him that these are just reanimated corpses, so it's not killing, but the warrior still doesn't like it. Brandon thinks it's time that Ronan taught the Red King a lesson, so Superman flies into battle as Theander heads to deal with the giant Promethean. Brandon meanwhile compliments the team's work, but soon spots a kryptonite bomb of some sort, speeding off to it and grabbing it and its parademon bomber, flying high into the sky above the sanctuary as it explodes, killing himself in the process. Theander watches as her father dies, screaming out in anger as she unleashes her powers onto the parademons, blasting through them easily, saying that Brandon Kent was gentle and kind and even loved his enemies and was everything that she is not. Theander smashes right through the head of the Promethean, destroying it for good as Brainiac 4 finds what he is looking for in space, sending out his fastest orphan box equipped drone to find it. Brainiac 4 rushes outside to find Allura, telling her what she found, and there is hope as suddenly he is ripped in half by the speedster Black Racer. The elves come for the racer, but they escape as the family converge on Brainiac 4's body. Superman knows that the being said something about hope as Brainiac's body is overtaken by a voice that says there is no hope for them. The family think that it is Brainiac 4, but the voice says that it is actually the Red King. Theander tells the king to come face them himself and to answer for Brandon and Brainiac's death, but the Red King says that only Earth now remains thanks to the United Planets being fully destroyed, and come tomorrow he will have Earth as well. The Red King calls for all of Sanctuary, saying at dawn the fortress and all will die, but if they cast off the House of El symbol and allegiance to it, they will live. The soldiers say that they aren't slaves to the House of El like the Red King thinks, and the unchained people of Warworld Prime stand with those who freed them, as do Warworld's engines and the Tenemarian Honor Guard and people of Earth. The Red King decides that all will die at dawn as Allura removes her helmet, using her heat vision to burn away Brainiac 4 and allowing him to rest once and for all. Later on, Superman meets with Theander on a rooftop, knowing nothing he says will bring her father back. She tells Ronan about how her father told her stories about their family in nursery rhymes, knowing as she grew older the stories were scary and sad, but her favorite was the musical quality of the rhymes, knowing that they were epic poems. She says that when she was grown, her mother told her that her father invented most of those stories and some were truths, but most were made up, and sometimes she wonders even if there even was a Kal-El at all. The woman says that there may have been a Krypton at one time, and perhaps a refugee came to Earth, and perhaps the yellow sun made him special and people invented stories just to fill in the gaps. But the symbol they wear on their chests is an empty one that tomorrow they will die in service of. She says that Superman was never real, but Ronan says he's real to the others and real to Brainiac 4 and to Brandon, and tomorrow they will honor them all. The next morning as the sun dawns, the Doomsday Horde of the Red King attacks. Superman tells his family they cannot be allowed to reach the city, knowing they will meet them in the field despite their defenses being useless against the Doomsdays. The family charge into battle under the banner of truth and justice, fighting the Doomsday army and the parademons. Soon Black Racer returns, speeding through their defenses and towards the sanctuary. Karn-El calls for the family to stop her, so Allura trips the villain up, telling her that she shouldn't have come back since even gods can't outrun their sins. The family continue to fight as Superman is smashed into the ground over and over by a Doomsday, but he manages to shoot his heat vision at one of the attack craft above so that it falls from the sky onto the Doomsday, destroying it. Karn-El is impressed with Ronan's attack plan when he's suddenly hit in the head and killed by the Red King, who introduces himself to his cousins again. The family confront their cousin Pyros, who says that this is a historic day and his rule will be a benevolent one and he will ensure history remembers them all, and that the House of El symbol they dishonor will finally become something great again. The family attacks, saying the villain was one of them once and they were his family. Pyros becomes enraged, angered they dare speak of the House of El, saying that he is Kal-El's son, not some far-flung descendant like they all are, and they are barely Kryptonian at all. He grabs Theander, saying that he heard her talk about how Kal-El never lived, but now wants the woman to look at him and know it is so. Superman comes to his friend's rescue, saying Clark Kent was the name Superman Superman chose, and he doesn't see anything of him in Pyros. As the hero and villain fight, the family stand their ground against the Doomsdays, knowing it's their last stand. Kal-El, who survived Red King's vicious attack, awakens, asking what's that up in the sky. Suddenly, the Doomsdays are all blown away by a huge gust of wind that kicks up a plume of moon dust. The family find the area has been totally cleared, as Ronan knows it can't possibly be him. Pyros calls to the being to show themselves, so Kal-El reveals himself to his son, saying that he has a lot to answer for. The boy says that his mother said that he would find a way back, but Clark knows that Cersei gives him too much credit, since Brainiac 4 was the one who found his way back. Pyros is convinced that he is more powerful than his father, but the hero knows that once again Cersei was wrong about that, catching his son's fist. Pyros tries to use his heat vision on his father, but it doesn't do anything to Superman, who says that Cersei was wrong about Pyros most of all, since he was born of magic and deception, intended by Cersei to be the end of the Elves and everything else, but Superman has a higher hope for him. With his son beaten, Clark tells him not to get up since he wants to talk with him. Clark says that Pyros' mother set him on this path and took him away from the boy, but he is there now and they need each other. Superman explains that the dimension that Cersei trapped him in all those years ago is a dangerous one and they need their own Superman, so he wants his son to come with him back into that dimension and become the man he only dreamt of being. After a moment, the boy accepts his father's hand and offer as Theander approaches Clark, knowing he really is Superman. Clark says that he is so proud of them all and seeing his children surpass him is one of the great joys in life, and he knows Brandon felt the same way he does. Taking to the sky with his son, Superman says that he will come back one day, but the story of what happened there is his family and Theander's to tell. Superman and his son head off into deep space, telling Theander to use their story to give people hope again.